Okay. So one thing that I want to go over though first that I did in my other classes, that what I'm trying to do, I've changed a little bit on my module schedules so that you can see and kind of plan for the test so that you can plan ahead. I'm going to schedule those as close as I can. They may be one class period off. Like, for instance, yours will always be on Wednesday so that you do not have to come into a Zoom meeting to take the live test. And there will only be 4 of those the whole semester. If you understood or watched the first video, there is 4 tests each 4 weeks. There will be one. So at the end of 4 weeks, that Wednesday of that week, which will be September 11th, and I have that here posted. So I'm setting this up by modules this semester. So I go into student view so I can make sure you see the same thing. So right now, I don't have anything in the other modules, but what we're going to do is I'm scheduling the modules around those 4 tests, so that everything that's in module 1 is what we'll cover before the end of week 4, and you'll have test 1. Okay, and those tests, those 4 tests, you have to be present in class. If you're sick, there's still no makeup for those tests. Here's what the deal is. If you are sick or you have a family emergency and you can't come that day, what happens is the end of the semester, there's a final, which will be the same as test number 4. So if you do well on test number 4, you'll do fine on the final. But like say you miss test 1 or test 2, test 3, or even test 4, that final is the only makeup, and it will be given during finals week. But if you take test 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you're okay with your grade on those tests and your final grade, you'll know your final grade prior to that final week. If you're happy with that, then you don't have to come for the final, okay? So the final is a makeup / if you want to improve something, okay? It's optional. And so if you have a 0 for one of those test grades, you will need to take the final because you won't be able to have enough points. Any questions? Everybody got that? Okay, so what I've done is module 1, test 1 is the only one that I have scheduled so far. So, and it says in here, I didn't go in and edit this. Let me do that right now because I forgot to do that earlier. It says at the end of the 2nd week, and it should say at the end of the 4th week. Okay, so this is showing you everything that we're going to complete in module 1. Some of it we've already done, and some of it we're going to do today, and then next week will be week 3, which is Labor Day week. So you guys don't miss anything because I won't have a Monday lecture. So you won't have a lecture on Monday to watch. You will only have class on Wednesday next week, okay? So the assignment that we'll do on that Wednesday is here, and I'm going to go over some of the other due dates too. And so then after week 3, on the Monday lecture of week 4, I will be doing some MindTap coding and then any kind of review for the test. So you will want to watch that before you come in on Wednesday, September 11th, unless I notify you that we haven't covered everything and I need to push it a whole week forward. But this will be the earliest that that test will be scheduled for. Okay, so you can plan on that, scheduling it. So any questions too that you have, like if you watch the Monday review and you say, well, they didn't ask some questions that I have, then we can do during the office hours I have on Monday or Tuesday, or if you just want to email me and I can try to answer them, or if you want to go in a Zoom office hour recording, or if you want to come up here during my office hours, okay? So that is some options that you have after you watch that Monday one, if it doesn't give you all the information that you need for the test, okay? So I will be available to you, even though this is just a hybrid, as long as you're taking advantage of those lectures that I put up there, okay? All right, so this schedule says that you have to have completed your Meet the Class. We did the MindTap Chapter 1 and the Unit 1 test. Just for, you may have noticed that the due date changed on that. Just for this one, I extended it because people were still having trouble getting into MindTap. So the Unit 1 test is actually still open until the 29th, which is tomorrow at midnight, okay? So if you have not taken the Unit 1 in MindTap, you didn't have to purchase MindTap yet. You still have the trial for 14 days. But once the trial ends, you have to purchase it. But all the stuff that you've done during the trial, it's still there. So your account is still connected to you. All right, so has anyone had any trouble with the trial, getting into the trial? Okay, so now we covered on Monday, we finished covering the chapter where I lectured over it, and I also used those PowerPoint slides that are available in MindTap, but we're going to go into those where I can show you under the study section, there's those slides that I used. And to cover chapter 1. And then today, we're going to go over this exercise, which some of you have done and completed, and some have not, because it's not due until next, the 3rd, which is that week. Because next week is a holiday week, I'm not going to make things come due on Monday night. I'm going to make them come due on Tuesday night. Okay, so so that you can have a good Labor Day, right? So then before class, though, there are things that are due. So today, which is week 2, we're going to talk about we're going to go in and look at the MindTap coding assignment, and also we're going to go over this exercise, because then you have to do 8B by the 3rd, I think. I might have changed that. I'll look at it. And so let's look then under here at some of our due dates and make sure I get all that right. So we've done, Unit 1 is due tomorrow night by midnight. Then this is the one that's due Tuesday night. And so just to make sure you guys, if you looked, it should have already been in on the video. But this you don't have to watch. That was an introduction to the class. I don't know why I put it in there, but it's there. But then go to Unit 1, MindTap ebook, programming exercises, and complete number 2 and number 6. Now, some students in my online class, for some reason, they didn't do number 6. They did the one that I did in class, which was number 3, I think. So you need to be sure you do number 2 and number 6, and we'll go into MindTap and look at that. And then you would upload your pseudocode and flowchart from LucidChart. And I covered all that, but I will go over it again because I did in class this morning too. Yes?
So do we have to do both the pseudocode and the flowchart?
Yes, I know that it says or in the problem, but what I went over in my lecture class is that until I tell you different, do both. But then actually after test 1, when we start in module 2, you're going to be allowed to do either or, but I want to be sure everyone knows how to use both of those tools. And so up through test 1, we're going to do both every time. And they're short right now. Whenever we get to bigger problems, you get to choose, okay? So that makes it, so we're going to look at that today too. I have several of them open up here. we'll look at this problem first. So I'm going to go over then to go into MindTap. So if I go to my home here, I can actually click on MindTap here or wherever I get into it. I'm going to go into mine through here. Let me go. So you can click on that link to get into your textbook. Oh, it didn't let me till I sign in. You can also go to CengageBrain.com, but it's probably easier for you to click that link on test and then close it. As a matter of fact, I'll do that so everybody knows how to do that for sure. So if I clicked on Unit 1 test and I've already taken the test, if I say load it in this window, it's going to flash straight over to that test. I can close that window with this X up here. And now I'm in MindTap. Now, what you'll notice is that I've made Unit 2 available now, because that's what we're going to go into next week, and some students like to get ahead. So that is now available to you. But Unit 1, the chapter, is here. And so if you were wanting to do this assignment that says Unit 1, Programming Exercise 1 in Canvas, it says to go to the MindTap ebook and go to Programming Exercises and complete number 2 and 6. So once I get into MindTap, I go to the read, which is the chapter, and now I'm automatically at exercises, but when yours opens up, it'll probably be here, which is everything in chapter 1. And you can scroll down and click on exercises, or you can, when you first get into chapter contents, where'd they go? Whenever you first, it took me all the way out. Whenever you first get in, you can, this is probably the easiest way, but when it said chapter contents up there, you could click on it and go down to exercises. So you can do it either way. Now, these first exercises, you don't do this number 2. This is review questions. Those are different. That you never have to turn these in, but I always advise students to go through these after you've read the chapter and before you take the unit test, and see if you can answer these. And I can provide the answers to these if there's some that you don't understand, or I can always provide those out there anyway for you, because we usually don't do them in class because I feel like it's more beneficial for students if I work problems together in class. So hopefully you don't have any problems with those, but if you do, you try to do them and you don't understand, please ask a question. You can always email me or ask for a Zoom meeting. So here are the programming exercises. They're directly after the review exercises at the end of every chapter in MindTap. Okay? Am I going too fast? Everybody got it? And also, you can watch this again if you need to. So we're not doing number 1. It's still, that's all of these programming exercises. There's no way I can assign them all and grade them all. So I don't assign them because I can't grade them. That doesn't mean that it would not benefit you to do those. If this is your first time to ever do programming logic, you may want to do more than what I assign if you really want to learn, okay? There's no way I can grade them all, so I don't feel like it's good to assign them. I could give you a check mark, but I couldn't grade them all. So here we go. This one is number 2. So when you do this number 2, it doesn't require pseudocode or flowchart. It just requires that you go back into the chapter and find out what the steps are to writing a computer program. Well, the best way to submit one document for this whole assignment, because then you have to do pseudocode and flowchart in that problem, right, is to go ahead and open up Lucidchart. And if you haven't created that account yet, you need to, it's a free account. And I show you how to do that in several of the videos. But, and you won't have all these, this because I've been using Lucidchart a long time. So if I want to go over and create a blank document, let me see if I have one already done. I think I do from earlier. Yeah, there's one. Okay, this is one that we did in class, which was like problem 3, I think, in MindTap. See, problem 3 was to draw a flowchart or pseudocode to represent the logic of a program that allows the user to enter a value, and the program multiplies the value by 10 and outputs the results. Now, what you'll notice that I did here is I just drug a text box over and pasted my problem there, so I didn't have to keep going back into MindTap and looking at it. That's not required. That's just if you want to, it makes it a little easier. So what you can do for your assignment is you could take this text box that I drew over here, that I dragged over here, and this could be your problem number 2. So remember, if you look at the videos, I show you how to change your alignment, how to change your font size, which you don't have to make it this large. I'm doing this because I'm trying to make it large enough for you all to see it. But here I could say number, oops, let me get it right in there. Sometimes it doesn't. Number 2, and that's problem number 2. Remember, you had to do number 2. So you would type out in this text box your answer to number 2. Okay, and then it's on the same document with number 6. Okay, so then this was problem number 3. I want you to do problem number 6, which says, draw a flowchart or pseudocode to represent, which remember, no or there, it has to be and. I want you to do both. Pseudocode to represent the logic of a program that allows the user to enter 2 values. So how many input are we going to have? 2. We're going to have 2 variables. The program outputs the sum of those 2 and the difference of. So how many calculation boxes? 2, because we're going to create a sum and a difference. Okay? And then we're going to output both the sum and the difference. Right? So remember when we did number 3 over here, you guys stop me and ask if you have a question. So over here, I had a start, I had 1 input, I had a calculation, and then I had my output. And I can either put print or I can put output, whichever one. The reason we put print there is because in Python you say print instead of output. So remember, in chapter 1 it said there's 3 parts to every problem. There has to be input, there has to be processing, and there has to be output. So when you look at your problem, if you have those 3 things, that doesn't mean it's correct, but you at least have to have those 3 things. So something that would change here in the one that you're doing. Now, I had some people do this problem, the sum and difference, and they had their flow chart with 2 lines coming. One came out here and one came out here. Okay, you can't do that because this is not a decision. This is input. Therefore, in a flow chart, there's 1 entry point, and sequentially you do the steps and stop at an exit point. Every program has an entry or a start point and an exit or a stop point. And right now, the only code that we're doing are called sequential statements. What does the word sequence mean? In order. Very good, right? So we do it in order. We don't have any options yet to branch or to make a decision. Although we've seen an overview, we've talked about that in chapter 1, that there's a way to do that. And there's also a way to repeat statements, and that's called a loop. So those 3 things, that's all you have to learn for the whole semester. Those 3 things. Every program can be solved by a combination of those 3 kinds of statements: sequential, branching or decision, and repetition or loops. That's what those terms are synonymous, okay? So right now, all up through test 1, even though we're getting an overview of those other kind of statements, you don't actually have to use those to solve a problem yet, okay? In chapter 2, we still do sequential statements, but we talk more about variables in chapter 2. We learn more about variables, okay? And how to name them. So here is every time if you're going to input 2 numbers, there's 2 ways you could do that. You could do your pseudocode first and call the other one num2 if you wanted to. And over here, you could go in this box and say comma num2. The important thing is that these variable names in your pseudocode match the variable names in your flowchart. We don't want to come up with different ones for both tools. Yes?
What about the space in between them?
That doesn't matter. You mean right here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in pseudocode and flowchart, it doesn't matter because this is not going to be run by the computer.
What about it?
Python?
Yeah.
Python, the only thing that's really squirrely about Python is that the indents. And so right now you don't even have to worry about that because we're not doing branching or loops yet. So in Python, it doesn't really care about the spaces either. It's just that I usually space things in Python like between the plus sign and over so that it's easier to read. Okay, but that's a good question. So here, the important thing is if I call it my answer here, then I have to call it my answer when I print it or output it to the screen. And I also need to be consistent with my variable names in these 2 tools. So this pseudocode does the exact same thing as this flowchart, right? So here, when I change it, I'm going to have 2 of these rectangles for my problem number 6 because I have a sum and a difference, right? Do I follow? If you have a question, ask me because that probably means somebody else does. So here I change this to output. So I'm going to go over here and make sure this is identical. It doesn't matter which I use, but I just want to be consistent. Same with my variable names. If I just wanted to call this N1, just be sure that I change it here because the program won't know that it's the same variable. You see what I did, Ryan? Did you have a question? Whoa, okay, you can see. Yeah, I at least in class I can kind of see faces, so I try to read the faces to see if they get it, because sometimes people won't ask. But here, where else do I need to change it where I've used num1? In the flow chart, right? In the flow chart, because I want to be consistent. So I'm going to change it here, and I'm going to change it here. Now, I can take this out. I was just showing you an example of if you had more than one, more than one variable. Now, if you have more than one input variable, you have the option of doing it the way I showed you, or you can create another parallelogram and say input N2, as long as it's sequential. Yes?
So N1, the computer is going to read it as the number, the variable itself.
That you ask for, yes. And we're going to do it in Python, and then I'll show you. I did it in Python too earlier. So, in fact, I think I'll change my Zoom and go over to, everybody's working on a PC, so I'll go over to my Windows PC and let y'all make sure. Does everybody have PCs at home too? Okay, So we'll do it in Windows. We'll flip over here so that you know the difference. So the only thing that's going to change now, remember what do we do to get this ready to submit? If we've actually keyed in our typed in our problem, we've done number 2, we've done number 6, we've changed this pseudocode and this flowchart to be the answer to number 6. So I'm ready to submit it. In Lucidchart, I have to do something to be able to submit it. And we'll do this in Windows too. Because right here, you do File, and you can't just say Save because it only saves it in Lucidchart. But I do File, and mine says Download As, and I think in Windows it says Export As, okay? So do Export As and click PDF. And when you do that, there's a download button over here. And you click Download, and you tell it where you want it to go and what you want it named. And this one, I don't think I gave you a name. I do on the number 8 one, and that's the one I'm going to show you. But this one, you can call it whatever you want, just so you put your initials with it. So maybe say example 1 and my initial DW, and I say save it, and I'm going to save it right here. Let me make sure I'm in the right folder. I put mine in folders for class here, students. And so I say save. Actually, I thought I had a folder for the 1230 class. Let me do that. Okay, so I'm going to save it here. And so now a person who does not have Lucidchart can open it as a PDF. So I would go over here then to Canvas, and if I'm in, let me get in student view. If I'm in student view, which you don't have to go into student view, yours is student view. Okay, so if I go here and click on this exercise, I have a submit assignment button. So I would click on it, and I would choose my PDF file, and I would submit it. So here is my 1230. Oh, I put that in another place, I think. But anyway, if I have a PDF here, yeah, here's one. So I would click it and click open, and it would, and then click the submit button. Okay, you have to always click the submit button there or it won't submit it. Okay, and if you have something that you want to say, you want to type in, you can click that text entry and type a note there if you need to, but that's not required. If you saved your stuff on your Google Drive, you actually have access to it right. Wait, oh, it's because I'm in student view, as it's not available then. But you can actually open it in your, there if you're using your Google Drive. Okay, any questions about that exercise? Oh, something came out. I don't know what that is.
So on the process portion of it, when you're doing this, can you put it together in the or you need to have
two different boxes? Good question. You, as long as, like what Ryan's asking, okay, you have to have a sum and a difference. So you have two calculations. You, as long as they're smaller like that and they can fit, you can put them both in one rectangle box.
just enter down, or?
Yeah, you can just, actually, I think you might have to shift enter. I can't remember. And no, it lets you enter down. Let me see. No, it didn't. Let me see here. I thought you did. Yeah, I think it's shift enter. Yeah, there you go. Shift enter, and then it'll let you type the second one there. If it makes more sense to you to have two rectangles, one stacked on top of the other, that's fine too. You can do, as long as it's sequential. Because what I had people doing was putting one out here, and one out here, and that's not accurate because there's no decision, okay? All right, so that's the first exercise that's due by Tuesday. Okay, so what we're going to do now together in class is the first mind tap, executing code in Python. Has anyone done this already in mind tap? Okay, go back over to Canvas and click on this link that says executing code in Python. Click it. We're going to do these together because mind tap gives you all kind of hassles sometimes getting 100%. So it should take you directly to a Start Assignment Now button as soon as it loads up. Okay, now I click on Start Assignment Now. And this is an editor for Python that's built in to MindTap. So you don't have to download Python to do this exercise. Okay, so we're going to do it first, and then if you haven't watched any of the videos, then you won't know about PyCharm and idle, but we'll go over a little bit of it. So this sandbox that it talks about, that's MindTap's editor. It's like built-in idle is what it is, or built-in PyCharm is what it is. But it's its own. And the way it grades is ridiculous. It does typo. It gives you, it will give you not 100% if you leave out the E in awesome, or if you don't capitalize where it tells you to. Mine's already done because I did it in the last class, but the instructions are on this side. The typing goes in here, and when you run it, you can either run the code by pushing this, and it'll show you as if you were running a Python code in idle. But here's what it tells you to do first. Execute the program. There should be no syntax errors. Note the output of this program. So first of all, it wanted you, and I'm going to take this out. Yours should look like, I believe yours should be like this, right? Okay, so to run it or execute it, as they're saying, you can click over here, and it'll show up the answer over here in the window, terminal window. And you can drag this back and forth. You have, if you want this out of the way and you want more space there, you can also click down here and it gets rid of your instructions. You have to click back up there to get them. Okay, so next it tells us the next step, modify the program so it displays, I'm learning how to program in Python. So we're going to add that up here, and we have to add the space, type, oops, I hit something that I shouldn't have. Okay, so I'm going to type in a space and then IN, and here, what's your name that asked me about the spaces? What's your name? Catan. Okay, so here it does matter about the spaces only because of their editor. If we go over to idle or PyCharm and don't put a space between words, it doesn't care, other than it will push them together when it prints. But in here, this is why we do these in class, because it has to be exact for the grader to work. So here it says, I'm learning how to program in Python. So now run it again. It says to execute it again. And you notice it changed what it printed to the screen. And remember, I was telling you in pseudocode and flowcharting, we use the word output. The reason we use output is because then your pseudocode and flowchart can work with any programming language, whether it's Java, C++. But with Python, we use the word print instead of the word output to get it to go to the screen. That's all that means. That says anything that's between the quotes is going to print to the screen. That's what this word print means. Everybody get that to work? You need help? What's your name? Prince. Okay, let's see what's happening. Oh, lucid chart. You've got to make up one. So, oh, but you forgot. And when you forgot password, it should go this. Are you sure that you use that email address? Okay, look in. Oh, there's. Okay, see if it'll let you. Okay, okay, well, that's maybe. So you lucid chart. Let me look at it after class, okay? Because you don't need lucid chart for what we're doing. Go in the line. We're in line. Okay, so he's actually in execute. So close this window right here. And now go down to code. So now you can follow along with this, and then we'll go back to your. Sure. You have to run it again. You have to run it again. If you run it again, it should be okay.
Thank you.
Oh. Well, you got to put the other line of code in, or it'll give you 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to do the second line. I haven't put the second line of code in yet. That's why it's still not giving you 100% because number 3 says to modify the program. And then you want to print, that's awesome. So you say print here and here, that's awesome, and exclamation mark, like that. And so now if I run it again, it should print both of those. And if it's not showing all on one line, like Ryan was asking, like if I ran it with my window over there, it's going to put it, separate it like that. And if I just pull it over, it still doesn't show. I have to actually run it again to see it all on one line. And then once I get that done, I go over here to the task and it says program runs successfully. It tells me 1 out of 1 checks passed, great work. And so when I come down here, I have to actually run the checks before it gives me the 100%. So run the checks, and then it should say submit 100%. And you have to actually push on that green button to get your grade. Okay, so. Oh, yeah, that's it. That has to be kept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's real pictures about everything. Did you get yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Everyone else got it? Okay. So this is a real simple one, and that's why I tell you on all of these that are coding, I'm going to do those maybe not in the Wednesday class, but we will do them whatever it falls on, whatever day. But they will always be a video of me doing those so that you don't have to sit at home so frustrated because you can't find the space or whatever. Because in Idle and PyCharm, which is the real editor, it is a little bit more forgiving. It's just that because this grades you, everything, the way the program was written to grade it, it has to look for only one certain way that the script is written to get the results. And also even the results. Even if it's just grading by what's output here, it's going to look if there's a capital P or a lowercase p. Can't grade both ways. So that's why. And if you don't get 100, then you don't want to push the submit button until you've asked me, because you can get 100% every time if we just tweak it. Okay. And that's why these are just worth the 5 points each, where when you do assignments independently, you know, they're worth a lot more. Like that one that we just did, they're worth 10 or something. The ones where we do the pseudocode and the flowchart. Now, if I go over and let me switch here so I can be on what y'all are on, which means I've got to record it here too. And I'll change the projector here while that's logging in. And let me get this. Actually, I think I can get it to let me share screen and enter this one. I have to join a meeting. Let's see. I think that's right. Yeah, okay, so that's, let me turn the sound off. Okay, that's still, what is it doing? Oh, sorry. Let me see here. I don't guess it's gonna work. Maybe. Okay. Man, I was hoping I could do that, but I'm not going to be able to. We have to